Okay, so which farm is better, left or right? Well, actually, the answer is the one on the right, which is slightly more better than the one on the left. Greetings everybody, this is Zaptrocity and welcome to a very special video. Today we're going to look at the mechanics of crop growth. So you might be wondering already, how is this one slightly better than this one? This one is only slightly better, and today we're going to look at a few ways of how some farms like this might be slightly more efficient than this one, and could actually potentially change the way your efficiency of some of your farms, especially with the way we now have fully automatic farms, such as the mob-powered farms. A video was made on that by Pi and DocM. I suggest you go check those videos out. So now, what we want to do is to make spawning of melons a lot quicker, and today we're going to look a little bit at how crop growth works to maximize the efficiency of your melons, pumpkins, wheat, carrots, potatoes, whatever you have, all in this one video. Right, so today we're going to be mostly talking about wheat and more melons, but the same principles apply to the wheat, carrot, potatoes, melons, and pumpkins. The melon and pumpkin seeds too as well. So we're going to be using wheat as our example, but remember that it does apply to all of these crops too. Okay, so this video is quite a full-on informative little video, so you can skip some parts if you already know what things are, but basically in this video we're going to be talking about a couple of things. We're going to talk about the conditions that crops need to grow, how crops grow and what makes them grow faster, melon and pumpkin growth, and tips on maximizing your efficiency in your farms. Alright, so let's first start off by looking at how crops grow. So right here we have a piece of one seed right here on this farmland, and we can see that it might be ready to start growing. So what happens is Minecraft performs checks, and there are many videos about how Minecraft, every 1/20th of a second, some certain blocks in some chunks around you get chosen. Here is a chunk, a 16 by 16 area. Just to quickly give you a brief overview of chunks, you can see right here on my X and Z at the very end, you can see how my position in the chunk, which chunk I am in, and all of that. So you can see right there the numbers changing as I move throughout the chunks. Alright, so what happens is some random blocks are chosen, such as these red wool blocks here I've placed. Maybe the game decides to choose some of these, and if it decides to choose this crop block right here, it will then check to see if this block can be updated so it can grow by one stage, maybe like that. Well, that's a bad example because that's bone meal, but you kind of get the idea. So if this crop block is chosen out of the many ones in this chunk, then it will go through a process and decide if it wants to update it so it can grow to its next stage. Wheat has 7 stages before it reaches full maturity, that one right there, and it starts off with this first one right here. So the first thing the game does if it chooses this block is it says, can this one grow at all, or is it at its full stage? Well, if it can, then it'll check stuff like if there's a block on top, then it's not going to grow at all. Things such as slabs, glass, and all of that do not prevent things. Basically transparent blocks and all of that. It also checks the light level above it, and if this is greater than or equal to 9, then it will say, yep, this guy's ready to be grown. Then we'll go through a little more. So it goes through a little more after this, but that is the basic idea of how crops grow. Random blocks get chosen, and if it's the wheat block, then it will check these things, and then it will see if it can grow. Now, something that not a lot of people know past this stage is that there is actually only a slight chance that this crop will grow. Even though it might have been chosen and there's no block on top, there's light level, everything's fine, there is still only a slight chance that it will grow, because there is actually a secret little formula behind all of this. This is called the growth probability, and this is calculated by this formula right here. So the growth probability, the chance that that crop will grow if it gets chosen, is 1 in rounded here, 25 over growth rate plus 1. So what does that all mean? Well, we're going to use a few, abbreviations here so we can speed up the process of things. GP is going to be growth probability, and GR is growth rate. So, growth rate. What is growth rate? Well, growth rate is something that, if we look at the basics of it, most people should kind of understand what it is already. So here we have a seed on an unhydrated soil. We got a block on top just to stop it from growing. And this gives a growth rate of 2.0, meaning our total growth probability is 1 in 13. So if this block is chosen, there is a 1 in 13 chance it will grow. Alright, well that doesn't sound all that great, but if we look here, this one is hydrated soil, and that gives us a growth rate of 4.0, meaning we get a growth probability of 1 in 7. So that means if this crop block is chosen, it has a 1 in 7 chance of growing, which is almost double as fast, But remember, this is all random. It's just some probability. So it might not, maybe this one will grow faster than this one if you're really, really unlucky. But everyone knows this. Everyone knows that unhydrated soil makes the seed grow so much slower, and this is because of the secret little formula behind it all. But there's actually more to this formula than what most people actually think. So if we look over here, we have an extra farmland block there. I just have a block on top and seed there just to stop that dry farmland from going away. But the game also checks a 3x3 area around that farmland block right there. So we already know that the growth rate is 4 for a hydrated farmland block underneath. That's great. But now if we have a unhydrated farmland around in this 3x3 area around this crop, it actually gives us an extra growth rate of 0.25, meaning we get a total growth rate of 4.25. Throwing that into the formula as we saw before, we get a growth probability of 1 in 6, which means this crop actually could grow possibly faster than this one without any extra farmland around it. So that changes things a lot, and not a lot of people actually know about this. So over here, we can also see, if we set it today, that we also have unhydrated soil here. Hydrated soil here. And that gives us a growth rate addition of 0.75. A total growth rate of 4.75. That's pretty good. But that still gives us a growth probability of 1 in 6. So, yeah, that's still pretty cool though, but for a maximum growth rate, we can get a growth probability of 1 in 3. If all of this is hydrated farmland in this 3x3 area centered around that central crop, we'll get a growth rate of 4.0 from the center, and then we get 0.75 multiplied by 8, because we have 8 farmland blocks around it. We get a total growth rate of 10, which is the pretty much maximum you can get. So if you want to maximize your wheat farms, there you are. Make sure you have farmland around each of these. But there is actually more than this, believe it or not, because there is actually growth rate deductions. So here we have the maximum here. We've got 10, but we've got one seed right here. Now what this does is actually halves the growth rate. So we get growth rate of 10 here, but then it gets divided by 2 to 5, so that now is only a 1 in 6 chance. So it was a 1 in 3 chance right here, but now this seed is only a 1 in 6 chance that it will grow. Now, the game checks to see if there's any crops of the same type diagonal from it. So if there's one here, or even one here, or there, or there, it will check to see if there is one, and then if it does, it will just halve it. If there is 2, it will just halve it once. It won't stack, and it won't be like 2.5 or anything like that, but yeah. So that's something you gotta watch out. Crops diagonal from each other is not a good thing. Not only does it do that, but crops sorted something like this will also have some point deduction. So having crops in a straight line does not affect it at all, because nothing is diagonal from it. But if there is a crop like this, if there is one north or south to it, like that, in the line, if we've got 2 in a line there, it will also check the sides. So if there are 2 in a line like this, that crop there will actually check the size. And if there is one right there, or right there, then it will basically halve it again. But even if there was a diagonal one, it doesn't stack, as I said before, so it just basically is halved. So it will be 5 once more. So to kind of summarize that, if there is the same crop north and south, so same crop north and south, north or south, so there's one there or one there, and there's also one of the same crops east or west, so if there's one there and there, or one there and there, or even one there and there, or there, that means we get a halved growth rate, and means that one only gets a 1 in 6 chance once more. Wow, that means you basically have to start farming in rows like this for a maximum efficiency. Well, actually that's not completely true, because it only checks for the same crop, which means you can, since people farm potatoes, carrots, wheat, melons, pumpkins, all of that, we can actually put them in rows like this. And that means all of them will get their growth rate of 10, and that means a 1 in 3 chance of growing, which is pretty cool. We just got some extra farmland around here, so it gives that total growth rate in the center right there. So that is pretty cool, and not a lot of people know about that. So if you're doing your little old manual farms at the start of your world and you need some food ASAP, then start putting your things in rows and start adding hydrated farmland around it, because that will make your crops go super fast. So that was actually quite a lot to take in, and it's something that not a lot of people know, but that's something to think about if you're making automated farms and all of that. It is a question about if you want it in rows, space efficiency, and how fast they grow. So yeah, very, very strange things. Anyways, we're going to move on to some other things like melons and pumpkins. So melon and pumpkins work the same way. For example, the seeds, when they grow, they will grow in the same way. For example, this one here, they need to be in straight row. If there is any one diagonal, then it's going to half the growth rate. Or if there is one, if there is, what I said before, if there is something like in that kind of pattern. Yeah. Now, these melon seeds also follow the same rules about the farmland around it, so the more farmland around it, the melon seeds will grow faster, which is pretty cool. But most people nowadays just use bone meal to get those to full maturity before, that's all they really need, because the stems don't actually break, they just produce their melons. So right here we've got a simple old thing here, but there is actually more to melon spawning than meets the eye. So over here, we've got almost a pretty much maximum efficiency melon farm here. So we've got the same things. Melon spawning works the exact same. That checks the farmland around it in the 3x3 area. More farmland means more chance of a melon spawning. So right here, we've got pretty much maximum efficiency, because we can't really hoe that because there's a melon in the way. So that is pretty much maximum efficiency for one melon stem right there. Right here, I've got a kind of similar setup, but there is actually something else that happens with melons. Now, melons, once it passes this check and it goes through the probability, right here we've got like a 1 in 3 chance because of all this wet farmland, then it will also check the sides, and if there is this side occupied, then there's a 1 in 3 chance added to it that it will spawn in. It will actually spawn because there's one spot being taken up. So here we have a total probability. So we've got a growth probability of 1 in 4 for this guy, because we add up the farmland all around it. And then a melon spawning is 3 in 4, because it can only spawn in that spot, and that spot, and not this spot, because we've got another melon seed in the way. That means the total probability is 3 in 16. A 3 in 16th chance that a melon will spawn. Ooh, that's starting to get a little low. Well, right here, what I've done is I've blocked these sides off with flowers, so we get the maximum efficiency of farmland. But this isn't particularly too efficient, because it still can't spawn in those places. But I mean, for automated farms, you might just want it to spawn in one place. So there is a lot of thinking required to see if your farms are actually fully efficient. But if we do the calculations, 1 in 3 chance here, 1 in 4 melon spawning. Total probability is 1 in 12 chance that you will get a melon spawning right there. So, But if we just look at this one here, that, most people decide to use right there, just a small old little farmland block there, we get our growth rate is 4 because of our one hydrated, farmland there. That gives us a growth probability of 1 in 7. Melon spawning probability is 1 in 4. All other sides cannot get any melons. There's no dirt or anything. That means a total probability of 1 in 28. Wow. At the start of this little video, I told you guys to compare which farm was more efficient. And now, using our knowledge about growth rate and growth probability, we can now determine which one is slightly more efficient in terms of more melon production and pumpkin production. So, the growth probability for this one right here is 1 in 5, and the melon spawning is 1 in 4. Total probability, 1 in 20 chance that a melon will spawn there. Now this one is only, I think it's the same, yep, growth probability of 1 in 5. Melon spawning 1 in 4, which should be pumpkin spawning though. Total probability 1 in 20, so there's 1 in 20 chance of that spawning there, and same with that. We make sure to count up the farmland blocks around it, so the ones here is actually going to be, it's probably going to be about equal anyways. Anyways, if we look at this one here, this one only has a 1 in 6 chance, the growth probability. This is because it only has one extra hydrated farmland block, so that gives it a total probability of 1 in 24. Ooh, kind of slipping out there. This one here is 1 in 20 though, because we've got one farmland adjacent to the central one, so that just gets it into the 1 in 5, and that means this one is slightly more efficient than this one. It will produce slightly more, just based on probability. It doesn't necessarily mean that this one will produce more. This one could produce more, but it's all based on luck and how the game decides to randomly choose stuff. Anyways, I've got some other designs right here. So this melon farm here is actually going to be cut down quite a bit. Wow, 1 in 8, 1 in 5. You can see the difference right there. Now this is because it does have its hydrated farmland, right? But these are the same crop, and it's diagonal, which means it gets halved, and that means we get a 1 in 32 chance. So be careful if you're going to mess around with some of these farms. You might be lowering the efficiency of them by a lot. And this one here is 1 in 36 chance that a melon will spawn in there if it gets updated. Wow. Anyways, moving on, we've got some other designs here. Now we've put the melon seeds away from each other so they don't interfere. We've got them in line so it doesn't interfere with each other. And we've got farmland around here, got flowers in just to make sure that they don't spawn anywhere else except for there for our automated farms, because we only want the melons in one central spot. Alright, right here we see we've got a growth probability of 1 in 4 for that particular one right there, with the 5 farmland blocks there. Total melon spawning 1 in 4, total probability 1 in 16, should be P. Whoopsie daisies. This one here is a 1 in 3. Now we've got only 2 farmland blocks missing, and that means 1 in 3 growth probability, total probability 1 in 12 for a melon spawning there. So this is a pretty efficient farm. It will spawn your melons pretty fast. Over here we've got the same setup as we have over there, that one pretty efficient, and here we've just extended it out along, added more farmland, and now it's even more efficient. 1 in 12, and this one is 1 in 16. Ooh, pretty cool, pretty cool. I also forgot to show this one here. So instead of using flowers, we could also plant other crops, making sure that they don't interfere with each other. Since they only count their own crop, then these should all be fine. Look at these. These have maximum efficiency too. So, except for the carrots here, they're kind of efficient. So you can also use other plants to block off the melon growth right there, so it's limited to only one spot. Remember, that does lower its efficiency a little bit. Right, so to finish it off, here's a nice little manual farm you can use with one water source. It hydrates its little about maybe 9x9 area, and putting things in rows, that means it will grow pretty fast. But all of this stuff, it might not be necessary to you. It really depends on how you play the game. If you like to harvest things very frequently, then these ideas might be right for you, because you might have fully automatic farms that do everything for you, and mob powered farms. That means you probably want melon spawning as fast as you can to get the maximum efficiency. So these are some things to think about. Some things like a manual old farm, when you're starting a new world, you might want one of these. Make sure to plant everything in rows to make sure you get these plants to maturity as fast as possible. So these were just some little tips and tricks how to make your farms a little more efficient. But I don't know, does it really affect it too much? Well, according to the math, it does, kind of. But it's all just probability, and yeah, I looked into the code a little bit, so I can sort of verify that it's pretty correct. Some stuff is there on the wiki, so there will be links in the description if you wish to examine this a little further. But that's it for today. Maybe you can come up with some alternative farm designs for your automatic ones to make them a little more efficient. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. And if you have any questions or any math errors I have made and you want to correct them, then feel free to leave them in the comments. So that's it. I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.